Today I'm sharing with you my family's favorite holiday cookie. Oh man, it smells so good here with this vanilla just sitting wafting up at me. These started out just as a Christmas cookie for us. We cut them out with Christmas cookie cutters. But because they're so delicious, we make these any time of year. If there's a special holiday, Valentine's Day, Easter, you name it, we're making these. So these are our go-to holiday cookie. I've got all my ingredients ready to go here. I have butter, sugar, egg yolks, sour cream, and vanilla. Those are all my wet ingredients that are gonna go into the mixer right away. And then for my dry ingredients, I have flour, baking soda, baking powder, and salt. Now, if you have a big mixer that can handle a large quantity of stiff dough with a lot of flour in it, go ahead and double this recipe like I am today. Otherwise, if you just have a handheld mixer or a tilt head, don't try to double this recipe. Use the quantities that I have in the description. It will not be able to turn out in a smaller mixer. But I have a big one, it can handle a lot of stiff dough, so I'm gonna be doubling it today. So into my mixer, I am putting 2 cups of butter, 1 pound of butter. I softened this, so it's gonna be fine to just throw that whole block into the mixer bowl. And then I've got 2 cups of sugar and 4 egg yolks, 4 large egg yolks. So I'm just gonna dump all of that into my bowl and put the paddle on and cream that together. Okay, that's come together really nicely. So now I'm going to put my sour cream in. This is 500 mils or 2 cups of sour cream. And this I got out of the fridge about an hour ago too. You want all of your ingredients to be room temperature if possible, because if you don't have warm enough ingredients, then the dough is gonna split and not work together nicely. So I've got the sour cream in, and then I'm putting in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. We're just gonna get that combined. Okay, now we can put our dry ingredients together. So for that, I'm gonna be weighing my flour because it's a lot quicker than measuring 10 cups of flour using a measuring cup. So 1 cup of flour is 120 grams, and so I'm gonna be putting 1,200 grams of white all-purpose flour into my bowl right now. Okay, 1,200 grams of white flour. Then I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and I think, half a teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to get that mixed together. And then we're just gonna add this to the mixer. When you make these cookies, you wanna think ahead. This isn't a project to get done in one day. I've tried that before, and it gets a little stressful when you're doing cookie decorating with kids. So I plan to make my dough a couple of days, at least 1 day in advance, so that I can get it into the fridge, because you need this dough to chill and set up in the fridge. It rolls out much better if it's cold, the cookies cut out better if they're cold, and they hold their shape better in the oven when the dough is cold. So I like to make my dough ahead of time, and then when it's time to bake, the kids don't have to sit around waiting for the dough to chill because they're just excited to get the cookies decorated mostly. So now I'm just going to add this to my mixer a few scoops at a time. All right, so the last thing I have to do today is get this turned out onto some plastic wrap so that I can get it in the fridge. So I'll usually divide this into 4 separate pieces, flatten it out, and lay it in my fridge. And then when it's time to bake, we just pull it out and roll it. So I will show you portioning it out, and then we'll come back in a few seconds for you, a day for me, and bake these. I've got my dough all pulled together here. I've got my plastic wrap ready to go. So I'm gonna divide this with my dough chopper and bowl scraper. I'm gonna divide it into roughly 4 equal pieces. Then I'll get it turned out onto the plastic wrap it up, and flatten it, get it in the fridge. I'm gonna put these in the fridge. The next time I see you, I will be making some icing, and then we're gonna cut these out, bake them, and decorate them with my kids. I'll see you then. It's a day later, my dough is nice and cold in the fridge, and now we're gonna make some icing. So into my mixer, I'm going to put a brick of cream cheese, that's 8 ounces of cream cheese, and then half a cup of butter, which is 4 ounces. And I'm gonna just cream that together until it's nice and smooth. I'm gonna scrape the bowl down, and I should mention that you definitely need to have room temperature ingredients for this. So I took my cream cheese out of the fridge a couple hours ago, as well as my butter, so they were really nice and soft. Just scrape down the sides of my bowl, and then I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla to this, and I'll turn the mixer on again quick. And after that, we'll add the sugar. I want to be clear that this is not sugar cookies. This is not sugar cookies. This is not a royal sugar cookie icing that's going to give you really beautiful decorations. But you know what will be beautiful? The taste. These things taste way better than sugar cookies, so I stopped caring about having beautiful cookies. I care more about how things taste, and these things are delicious. Okay, now I'm going to be putting a pound of icing sugar into my mixer. So I'm gonna just add it slowly. I do typically like to reduce sugar in the things that I bake, and I've tried reducing the sugar in this icing. It doesn't really affect the taste of it, honestly. If I do less sugar, it still tastes just as sweet, but it does affect the ability of the icing to harden up a little more and get a bit of a drier crust on top. If I don't put enough sugar in, it just doesn't dry well enough. And so I do put a full pound of icing sugar into this icing. It's ready to go. So I'm gonna get my kids in here. We're gonna get our dough out. We're just gonna start rolling it out, cutting out our shapes, and get these cookies in the oven. And then we're gonna decorate together. I'm just rolling the dough out to about a 1/4 inch thickness. And then when you cut your cookies out, you want to pack your cookies in as tightly on the dough as possible to have as little waste as possible, because the more times you roll this out, the tougher the dough is going to be. So to get the nicest end result of your cookie, a good texture and not puffing up too high, you want to only roll it as few times as possible. Then you're going to bake them in a 350-degree oven for about 10 minutes. Just until you can see some browning starting to happen on the edges and on the bottom. If your cookies are on the thicker side, you might need a little extra time, but 10 minutes is a good target for that. After taking the cookies out of the oven, I'm going to transfer them to a rack until they're completely cooled. An essential step for getting uniform results when you're baking cookies is to always be putting your cookie dough onto cold baking sheets. So after I've taken a pan out of the oven, I run it under cold water in my sink to get it cold. Then I can put my parchment paper back on top of it, and it's ready for another batch of cookies on top. Once our cookies are cooled, it's time to decorate them. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here today. Let me know in the comments what kind of Christmas goodies you're baking, what your favorite Christmas cookies are to bake. And if you're curious to know more about this mixer, if you would like to see a review about it, let me know in the comments. I used to have a tilt head stand mixer and I upgraded to this bowl lift 7-quart mixer. So if you'd like to know more about that, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll post a review about it sometime. I'll see you later.